So over the last few months, I've been gathering feedback for my map, Railroad, which you can play in the test place, link in the description, and there were three main complaints that I kept seeing cropping up. First, the map is too confusing. Second, the map is too big. And third, the map is too cramped and cluttered. Now, you might think those last two are contradictory, which in a literal sense they are, but there is more to it than that, and I will come on to that later. But first, let's address the main issue with the map. It's too confusing. Whenever I get this feedback, it's kind of hard to understand for me personally, because of course, I made the map. I know it inside and out, I know every single route, I know where everything leads. So to hear it's confusing is confusing for me, because I haven't had that experience, so I can't really empathise with it. However, I know what people mean, because there are a lot of convoluted routes in the map in places. So what I've tried to do is make things a bit more direct. I cut an enormous amount of the underground because it was just had no reason to exist really. It was never used and it was confusing and just really janky. I've removed a couple of other routes and places in the underground and rerouted some other areas to hopefully be more clear as to where they actually lead and more direct as well. A recent change I've made to the routing that I'm not a massive fan of is what used to be a spiral staircase in the Ghost's warehouse. Now, if you know me, or any level designer for that matter, we hate spiral staircases because they are atrocious, to be quite frank, for a number of reasons. They're a pain to go down and up because you have to turn 180 degrees to actually go down them. They also cause issues with melees and stuff like that because if you have a world buster which has a long range, you can essentially kill people through the wall as they go up and down the stairs. And of course if you've ever played Mirage, you'll know the pain. Going up those stairs is not pleasant. So wherever possible I've tried to remove spiral staircases and this is one of them. There's also another one in the central station, which used to be a route to the underground, but is no longer the case because it was kind of unneeded anyway, and it also had a spiral staircase, which is bad. And in the part of the underground that was removed on the Phantom side, that spiral staircase is also gone as a result. So we've done some rerouting, removed some parts of the underground, and just other general changes to hopefully make it flow a bit better. And of course there are still issues, which I'm hoping to iron out in the next few updates, but so far I'm happy with how this is coming along. The map is too big. At face value this is just incorrect because the map is below average size, the average size being 500 by 500, this is about 450 by 450 if I remember correctly. That might have changed actually since the last time I measured, so I will check that and put a thing up on screen in a minute. So from an absolute standpoint that obviously isn't correct. And I could just dismiss the criticism, oh these stupid plebs, they don't understand how maps work or something stupid like that, but no. Because, you see, when they refer to size here, they aren't referring to the actual size of the map, they're referring to how expansive the map is. Because in a normal map, for example, Metro, you have literally 3 corridors with some extra bits on it. That's it. Whereas Railroad is 3 corridors with a lot of extra bits. And the 3 corridors kind of aren't the only 3 corridors, there's other bits as well, like the underground, and it just gets a bit of a mess, so it can be confusing to navigate, which also links into point 1. So, how do you fix this? Well, for starters, simplifying a lot of stuff helps. So I've already started to do that alongside the routing changes. For example, I've forgotten the call out, but it's this bit. I removed some of the awkward routing around there and made it a little more open and simple, and now there's also a massive drop down into the underground to hopefully get that area utilised more, and from playtesting in the last couple of days that does seem to be the case. So now that we understand the size isn't referring to the absolute size, we can move on to point 3. The map is cramped and cluttered. See, at face value, that would obviously contradict with the map being big, but now we know that rather than being big, the map is just expansive, meaning there's a lot of routes and corridors and stuff, which also happen to be in a CQB kind of engagement distance. But you can make CQB arenas and corridors that don't feel cramped nor cluttered. So what is the issue here? Well, a lot of it comes down to the prop placement and cover density. So in places like the railroad and the road that runs below it, there's a lot of props that kind of get in the way of movement and sightlines. And of course, props do have a purpose. They are to block sightlines and to provide cover. But in this case, the props are often small and annoying to traverse around. And that's of course not the only thing. There are a lot of corridors in the map that are quite cramped. And while you can make corridors that don't feel cramped, these do, and that's an issue which I'm trying to work on at the minute. One way I'm working on that, of course, is with the routing changes, but also over the last few iterations I've been widening a lot of the lanes and corridors. For example, the main railroad has been expanded by about 50 studs at this point, and in the original a lot of the side corridors were only 10 studs wide, whereas now they're a lot wider at 15 or 20, especially the ones on main routes. Another thing that made the indoor portions of the map feel cramped is the low ceilings. So in most places I've tried to up the ceiling height from 10 studs to about 12 or 15. This just makes it feel less claustrophobic and closed in. Another thing that I've been incorporating for quite a while is the use of natural light, a tip that I got from Lithium, who has been very helpful throughout the development process of this map. Because with the use of natural light, that makes it feel more like it's outside, and as such, it's less cramped. At least, that's how we perceive it. See, level design isn't just about the spaces themselves, it's the way humans perceive those spaces. These are similar considerations that architects have to take into account. Because you can have a small room that's objectively quite cramped, but the way that that room is coloured, or the way that the light interacts with that room, can make it feel a lot bigger. And that's one of the considerations that I'm having to put in here, because of course a lot of the map is indoors or underground, and to make it not feel cramped there's a lot of psychological considerations that I need to take into account. That was a very complicated way of saying it's complicated, and there's a lot more things that need to be taken into consideration than just the shape of the building itself. Anyway, I've rambled on for far too long about things that people probably don't even care about, so I'm going to stop now. If you want to see the full changelogs for the map, you can check out the wiki, which I will link down in the description below. And also please do the subscribe thing and the bells, and I don't know how YouTube works, but do it, because it's probably good. Oh, I think there's a like button as well, I don't know. Also, I now have to do an obligatory plug of my Spotify, Deezer, Tidal, SoundCloud, all of the music platforms. I make music there, you can go and listen to it. I released a single back in November, god that was a while ago, and I've got new music in the works at the minute. That will be out soon, TM.